I have never for a moment believed, and I have never argued, that all bad things, all conflict, comes out of religion. I don't even know if most does. I think probably most wars have been fought for reasons other than religious ideology. But the larger issue is dogmatism. The larger issue is belief without sufficient evidence, belief that is intrinsically divisive because it is immune to criticism, it is immune to the normal tests of conversation, tests of reasonableness, and these beliefs that divide us into these separate moral communities where we have Christians against Muslims against Jews, or blacks against whites, or one nation against another nation based on nationalism. I think nationalism can be incredibly corrosive of everything we want to encourage in civilization. Dogmatism and ideology immune to criticism is a problem. The problem, however, is that only in religion do we put a veneer of sanctity over dogmatism and call it faith, and once called faith, it becomes a apparently necessary and redeeming and precious part of the human experience.
This clip is from a debate between Sam Harris and Reza Aslan in 2007. This is a debate that continues still, and lately Sam Harris has been criticized by many who, in my opinion, take his quotes out of context. This episode touches on the subject of Islam and the criticisms brought forth by Sam Harris, and we get into it pretty good. Ultimately, I think we came to a kind of common ground, but I hope that you enjoy this episode and come away thinking about both sides a little more deeply than many in the media have been, or even those who are considered intellectuals have been. There's been a lot of dishonesty and misrepresentation of opponents going on. I hope because we as a group respect each other, we managed to break through that a little bit and get closer to a reasonable way to think about the subject. This is episode 19 and is the second part of our recording session on October 18th, 2014 with me, Mike, Rene, Destin, and Dave.
We can say definitively that religions are all bullshit.
Amen, brother.
Well, you know me, I don't buy into BS.
I get paid to sign.
I don't fit into human nature.
Do not come here, not some area here.
What the hell was my point?
Welcome to Brainstorm, the home of hardcore skepticism. Woo-free since 2013. These skeptical atheists started a podcast to help spread critical thinking, skepticism, and some philosophic and scientific literacy. Host Corey is joined by Lana, Destin, Brad, Mike, Rene, and Dave as they discuss news, politics, science, philosophy, and religion in a fun and intelligent way. And now it's time to open your mind to the Brainstorm.
Days of Future Past is amazing.
They're all crap.
Yeah.
Amazing.
They basically erase all the other bullshit.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. That movie was so good. Did you even see it? Oh, no.
Yeah, it's a wicked
No, that
movie.
was one of my favorite comic book movies of all time, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I was impressed.
Yeah. Anyway.
I'm not allowed to watch that without Heidi, so.
Oh,
you
geez.
should
We've
watch
totally segued away from it.
Well, we're going to. I guarantee it.
Oh, yeah.
It's sitting there just ready to be watched on the TV, so
Yeah,
it's waiting for us, like everything else.
a lot of payoff in that one, I find.
Good
Yeah,
stuff.
I thought so.
Good stuff.
Yeah, no, it was nice the way they, I don't know, it was a good story all by itself, and then it fixed the bullshit from the other movies. So that's, to me, that's makes it a good movie.
So, like,
And
it
overall,
changed the ages of the other characters?
not so
Like
much.
Rogue?
No? Like Rogue? Or
We don't want to
Julie?
ruin too much for this guy here. He hasn't
Yeah,
seen
he
it.
hasn't seen it.
Mike
yeah.
Mike hasn't seen it yet. I don't want to ruin anything for him. Trust me.
I will say this though, more from a filmmaking perspective, though, having that many A-list actors in one film and making them all work was like a miracle.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, that doesn't happen very often.
I still want to know: did they restore Rogue to what she should be?
No.
No, that's not even a part of it, really.
No.
Makes a cameo appearance, and that's it.
But she could be.
If she's still a part of the dark side, then by the dark side, I mean Magneto's crew and all of that, then that's fine.
Is she a teenager when everybody else is an adult still? Oh, wait.
Yeah. I don't want to say too much, but I mean, I think going forward there could definitely be.
Because Rogue is either a bad guy or she's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
You only have two different things there, eh?
Yeah.
I mean, either she's pre-draining Miss Marvel or she's post-draining Miss Marvel.
Yeah, I didn't really like how they portrayed her in the original.
No, it was garbage.
Yeah, it was garbage.
All of the
She's my
original
favorite character,
X-Men
so-
movies were crap. Jubilee's my favorite.
I liked the movies for their own sort of artistic...
Well, yeah, that's the thing
exactly.
about, like, they don't even have Jubilee.
Right.
Yeah,
and
they
she's
don't-
the
and
most
she's one of
powerful
the
mutant
most-
in the universe.
Yeah.
She's one of the most prominent X-Men.
Yeah, that's right. She's a big deal, actually.
But come on, let's be honest.
She is, yeah.
I mean,
That was just because of the TV cartoon, wasn't it?
yeah.
Well, no, she
Jubilee
played a pretty
isn't
big
even in
role
the-
in the 80s. Maybe it was the 90s.
90s.
But
That's when
when she came around and then Wolverine took her under his wing, like that was a big storyline. That was and then later on, like I don't know how up to date you guys are on your comics, but she becomes a pretty major character later on, and then I think she gets killed off. But
Well, there's always room for new series and new storylines. I mean, like, it's the thing. They can't do everything.
that's
just
true.
it.
Yeah,
It's its own artwork, and I really appreciated the movies in that sense.
Yeah.
I mean, they fucked Rogue, my favorite character, but I still really like the movies. I really do.
Yeah, there's a lot of strong points about them.
Yeah, they were decent movies in and of themselves. They were their own stories.
Yeah.
The fact that they weren't consistent with the comics, it doesn't matter.
If we've learned anything from the Batman franchise, it's just that you can take it several different directions.
That's
and
true.
now that we have a really good series of Batman, I'm actually okay with the older ones because I find that you can kind of appreciate each of their approaches to the character. Like it's
The fact that the last set of Batman movies went dark, I was really hoping that the next set was actually going to get really dark and grimy. Kind of like...
who's saying it isn't?
Huh?
You like dark.
Who's saying it isn't?
Ben Affleck.
Have you read The Dark Knight Returns?
Huh?
Have you read The Dark Knight Returns?
series?
Yeah. No, like the graphic novel.
Which one?
The Dark Knight Returns. You haven't then. Because you would know right away if you
The
have.
look of absolute confusion proves it.
Because everything about the new film is about Dark Knight Returns. Like even the teaser trailer was taken right from that book. So if it goes anywhere near that book, it's going to be fucking dark, man. It's going to be gritty because Batman is like the gritty old skeptical superhero in that comic. I love that version. of Batman.
is such a good series.
Oh fuck, is it ever good? If it's anywhere near as good as that comic, it's going to be a great film.
I thought you were talking about like the comic for the movie, The Dark Knight.
No, The Dark Knight
That's why you
Returns.
confused me.
Yeah, no, The Dark Knight Returns is it's kind of set in the future.
Him coming out of retirement after...
that's right.
What's
That's
his
right.
name? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
What's his name?
Bruce Wayne.
No.
I'm not sure what
Nightwing.
you're going for. Oh, after Nightwing?
Yeah.
It's well before the whole Nightwing thing.
Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, no,
it was written before Nightwing was a thing, I think.
1985
This
or
is when the
86.
postmodern comic thing was happening, like Watchmen and V for Vendetta and all those things.
Was that around the same time that they introduced Bolo in the Superman comics?
You mean Lobo?
Or Lobo?
Lobo.
Did I say Bolo?
Bolo.
Yeah, Bolo Young, like the big Asian dude.
Yeah.
Bolo Young.
I don't know when did they introduce Lobo? I don't even know. Like
He's
I read
been around
lots.
for a long
Yeah.
time.
Late
He's been-
80s.
yeah, I
He's been
think
around for a long time.
Lobo, as everyone knows, Lobo was 90s, I think.
Yeah, he seems like a '90s guy.
But they did introduce the character briefly, like really late 80s, like 89, and then they revamped him as the Lobo everyone knows.
Basically,
Yeah.
Motley Crue in space.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
that's
originally
right.
introduced him just as a big dude with lots of chains on a bike in space, I think.
No.
Or something like that.
No, there was no change. There was no leather there.
Well,
But there
That
was
came
kind of a
later.
motorbike,
That
but-
came later.
That
Yeah.
came later.
Something about, what was it called? The first one was Omega Men or something?
Oh, yeah. That sounds right.
No, wasn't it the Omega, not man,
There's a bunch of ignorant people trying to remember things. I think this conversation ended with Batman.
Batman. Because Batman.
I am Batman.
Conversations die as soon as somebody says Ben Affleck.
Hey, again, you know what? No, Gone Girl. I'm going to say it again. He was amazing in that film. Amazing. And I don't usually like Ben
Have
Affleck.
you seen Daredevil?
I don't care. That's the Daredevil. That's a totally different thing.
It's
a
possible.
dude in a costume and he's pretending to be a superhero.
It's possible that he, as an actor, I'm not a big fan of him personally, based on some things I've seen, but as an actor, it's possible that he evolved and grew and became
Exactly.
The argument has been made in
Became an
other,
actor.
in
And
other
became an actor.
podcasts I've seen is that, the movie, I mean, yeah, you can blame Ben Affleck, whatever, but the director has to shoulder the bigger responsibility. If the director doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, he's going to make a shitty movie.
I would say actually producers are more because the thing is, lots of times the directors have a good vision, but then producers
there
come
is
in
that too. There
and
is
screw,
that.
screw the hell out of it. That happens
Exactly.
all the time.
The studio comes in and
says, no, we need it to be this and that, so it'll sell this and that. And
Who was it that
Casting
played Joker?
agents can have
And
a
everybody
huge
said,
effect, too.
"Oh my god,
to a
he's
point, but the
playing
producer
Joker."
makes the final
that
call,
was
producer director.
That was Heath Ledger, wasn't
Heath
it?
Ledger.
Yeah.
So Heath Ledger was going to play Joker, and he got the exact same reception as
Exactly.
Ben Affleck is getting now. Exactly the same. Everybody's
Exactly.
like, "Oh, he's going to fucking totally wreck the entire franchise. This is just disgusting. This is going to be terrible."
And now look what-
and he was just amazing, right?
he redefined that
The first
character.
ever
Yes.
Oscar won for a comic book film.
Yeah.
So there, fuck you guys.
So let's just well, no, don't say that.
not
to me.
you. I just mean people who criticized him. It's like,
Let's just wait and find out.
yeah, exactly.
Let's see. We'll
The
see.
thing with Heath Ledger is he was a good actor.
Well, there's some shitty movies
always
he did
a
too,
good
man.
actor.
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess it depends on what you look at as a good actor. I was never such a big fan.
Not bad. Not bad.
Not Ben Affleck.
I would have never predicted him though to play the Joker that way.
No, that's
Nobody predicted
nobody
that.
would have.
No.
And then like I don't know, he's so lost in that character in that film. Like you don't see Heath Ledger for an instant.
No, that's right. You don't even identify him as Heath Ledger.
Yeah.
He is the Joker.
Yeah.
And that's all there is to it. And maybe Ben Affleck can do something even remotely close to that in this.
We're gonna find out, right?
That's right.
I'll put money on that being a no.
Is that right?
How much?
Against anybody, $50 a head.
I would
Affleck
bet
sucks
I
as
would bet
Batman.
harder that Jesse Eisenberg's going to be a shitty Lex Luthor. That's what I would bet
We'd
on.
need criteria for sucks, though. We could still disagree afterwards.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
I can't really bet you because we don't have any solid criteria. Sorry.
We need a third party objective.
If
measure.
he's
Nothing
a departure
objective
from
about
Ben
this.
Affleck, I think that's all the criteria you need.
Okay, so we could have a Ben Affleck scale.
Right.
Gone Girl on the best side of the scale, Daredevil on the worst side
No,
of the
Daredevil's
scale.
not his worst.
Well,
he's
that's pretty
done
close.
way worse.
It's pretty,
Geely.
wow.
the worst.
Yeah, you can't blame him. If you were screwing J-Lo and you got offered a movie like that, you'd take it.
Yeah, probably.
all I can think of is what was
Good Will
that?
Hunting, he was pretty terrible in as well.
I don't know.
He
What
was that was
Jay and Silent
really
Bob Strike
early,
Back.
and he still
Code
did pretty
32.
good then.
Oh, I didn't have any dead hookers today.
That just reminds me of Ben Affleck's thing on Bill Maher's show.
Yeah, well, there we go. There's a good segue.
And now for an interruption. I encourage you to check out our partner, Reasonist Products. T-shirts with science, reason, and atheist themes. They've got good prices and offer a buy one, get one free deal with the coupon code BRAINSTORM. As a bonus, Reasonist is offering a free t-shirt to the first person who tweets the word brainstorm to them. Their Twitter is @ReasonistProducts with no vowels. That's @Reasonist, PRDCTS.
We are given one life, full of billions of small and large decisions. To be somebody, to change, to be kind, to give hope, to become a better person, and to leave a lasting impact on this planet. It is a decision to be made every single day while your heart is still beating. We've made our decision. Absence of clothing, atheist and science-based apparel and merchandise, donating 50% of our profits to charity. Look good and feel good, without God. Check us out at absenceofclothing.com and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest for discount codes and other sweet swag.
If you use the offer code Brainstorm, you get 10% off.
Back to the show.
Back to the show. Ben
He's
Affleck
also an
acted
idiot.
like a complete idiot. He didn't understand Sam Harris's point that Islam isn't a race. He refused to understand that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely wasn't very good at articulating what he was actually feeling, I think. But
Well, he was just wrong.
well, to a
No,
point.
straight up.
To a point. But I can understand his offensiveness initially in terms of
Well, I
feeling
think
like
both sides, as I've said to Corey, and I think this is where Mike is trying to pick a fight with me.
Sam Harris is a dick.
I think,
come off
and
as a dick.
I'm actually a big fan of Bill Maher, but I think both sides are using a very broad brush, and that was the problem.
Yeah, that's the issue.
I mean, yes, Islam isn't a race, and but the problem is when they were saying he was being racist, because the Islam that Bill Maher and Sam Harris were quoting was the Arabic Islam, which I fully understand that's kind of that's where it came from. That's the viewpoint. It gets spread out. I mean, but I don't know. I think both sides were using a very broad brush, and that's what I think is the whole problem with the whole argument.
It's TV. It's TV. You know?
Yeah.
When it comes to a religion, I think it's a broad brush that's required. When what you're actually supporting is a book that itself supports the oppression of women, stoning of gay people, whatever atrocities like genocide, whatever atrocities the book that you're supporting itself supports, I think that broad brush is necessary.
Oh, yeah, this is
Say,
absolutely.
look, stop supporting Islam. I don't care if you're moderate. You're still a part of the problem.
I hate that word.
Unless you're going, I hate that word too. You're still a part of the problem unless you're going to say, look, this religion has done a lot of harm. We need to distance ourselves from it entirely.
Well, I've actually seen arguments where they say that there is voices like, I mean, it sounds like I'm defending Islam, which I'm not, kind of like that video
Which
I showed.
would be strange for you.
It's like that video I showed you. It's like, what's his name? Yank Unger?
Jank, yeah.
Yeah, Jank.
Yeah.
Is that, personally, I think if you look into Islam, it's kind of a carbon copy of a carbon copy of a carbon copy. I'm not defending it, but the problem is that when you are saying, okay, this religion is bad because it, there are elements in all religions. I mean, unless we're going into the modern ones, and I don't think any of us can defend Scientology, but you're going to have these archaic views. And for whatever reason, these people latch onto them and they put it through their filters of their culture, and it somehow becomes important when it really shouldn't be. But there is voices in the Islamic community saying that they need a reformation, much like Christianity went through.
Exactly. Yeah.
But just to counter that a little bit, we as anti-theists stand against all of that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
right, because it's not just a reformation isn't going to do anything. It has to be utterly people just have to stop believing in nonsense.
And
People
Islam,
have to stop uncritically accepting things.
Islam, another reason you have to paint it with a broad brush, 20% of the planet, 20% of Islamic faith, right?
Well,
1 point what billion?
1.6.
yes.
Yeah.
And then if you're going to play percentages, you have how many of them are ISIS and doing the bad things, and yet how many aren't.
It doesn't matter.
Well, but
The tenets of that
that's-
faith are the tenets of that faith.
But
Period.
Here's the thing, though. I think we're missing from this argument, and people aren't saying it enough, is that, fine, I mean, you can argue that there's aspects of every religious text that are harmful if followed. But is it saying that the people doing these things in the Islamic world that are like the fundamentalists, is it saying that strictly because of the religion they're doing this? Or are there a lot of other factors at play here?
No.
Like, no,
They're using the religion to justify what they're doing.
Fine. But I'm saying if it wasn't the religion, it'd be something else, is what I'm trying to
Because
get at.
that's-
This is what I'm saying. It's like, so here we just send robots over and drop bombs on you. There they behead people on live TV.
I think-
like you know what I mean? Like what I'm trying to get at is that I'm not saying that the religion is that some of those ideas are good, because they're not. That's sure. But I'm going to say that a lot of the stuff they're doing has less to do directly with a religion. It's justified by the religion, but it has more directly to do with humanity and our issues with economy, with survival, with a lot of other things.
My thought is that when somebody says, I'm cutting this person's head off in the name of Allah, then they're cutting their head off in the name of Allah.
See, and the problem we're having here.
That's my viewpoint. Like, I'm taking him at his word.
But if there was no Islam and we had the same economic state, would they be doing the same thing? This is my question.
Possibly no. Because
we don't know for sure. But.
In order to have a sort of justification of actions like, well, I like to rape 10-year-olds and, I like to oppress women. In order to justify that, you need a very large social acceptance of that behavior. If you don't have that, you're going to have extreme
No, actually, you don't.
reactions.
That's the thing. We have pockets of this around the world where people are doing horrific things like this, not in the name of religion. So that's what I'm saying. Do you have to have that justification from a mythical text?
You have to have some justification.
And maybe it's survival, maybe it's power.
That.
Maybe that's all it is.
Why are we focusing on ISIS?
Well,
they're a small,
right
tiny...
now.
No, I know.
We've gone beyond that here.
These pockets of beheading and shit, they're very small. They're not the problem.
I mean, I think personally, because they have taken some anthropology, reading history. I think part of the problem is we can all sit back and we are given the ability, and let's face facts, we are given the ability to sit there and call ourselves atheists, agnostic, anti-theist. We have the ability we have this separation of history because in the European, and we all come from a European background of some sort. I mean, you're
to a point.
Okay. I mean, once again, broad brush, but for the sake of argument, I'll go with this. We've already been able to. We've had the Crusades. We've had the Reformations. Where Catholics were killing Protestants. Protestant. There was people getting roasted because if you're a Protestant, you're devil worshiper or whatever. We've all gone through this horrific period, and which it's also brought into stuff like the Renaissance and all this other kind of stuff, like this back pocket of history and ideas that I don't think the Middle East has gone through. They're only been separated from a caliphate by less than 100 years. So I mean,
I've heard that argument before, that they still have an evolution of sorts.
There's a difference though. Back during the Renaissance, back during the Crusades, back during the Dark Ages, there wasn't another part of the world where there was the internet, where there was enlightenment.
You know what the irony of it all is? The irony of it is that when the Dark Ages was going on in Europe and all that shit was going on, the intellectual enlightenment was in the Middle Ages under Islamic rule. This is the irony. This is the irony of history.
That's not an irony, though, because there wasn't the communication that there is now. And I agree with you.
Yeah.
That
the internet exists now.
Right. Back then, the center of all knowledge and all thought and everything was in the Middle East.
Sort of.
It was the hub.
Yeah.
Right.
That's where it went. Like, I mean,
it's true. But
you don't want to say all.
Yeah, communication back then wasn't instantaneous. Now it is. The world is tiny.
Yes,
now,
but
there's no reason why they have to go through the shit that the Western world did.
So the average person in one of those countries with not the same access to technology that you and I have,
because
goes and looks things up, and what are they fed? I mean, do they have the ability to look as freely as you and I do?
No.
Well, no. If for
in
example,
China they certainly don't.
Exactly. So what I'm trying to say is I don't think that argument really holds, because I don't think it's that simple. I think knowledge and power are in control of people. Like not like the general population has the ability to even have access.
Because
to that.
I mean, to me the problem is history, because the entire Middle East after World War. I looked this up. Like, granted, it's been lazy research of Wikipedia and YouTube videos.
Boo.
Yeah, I'll freely admit it. But after World War I, the Western powers, France, England, they carved up the Middle East and created artificial nations. Mm-hmm. And this is where all this stuff is bubbling forth. Well, I mean, it's more complex than that, but that's part of the problem, is that these artificial constructions it's kind of like a post-colonial, just in the modern age. And this is where it's just that it's post-colonial with very, very effective weaponry. So this is where all the problems are. Like, you have, like I said, this ISIS, because it's the hot button topic right now. They're trying to create this caliphate, this idealized idea of the perfect world if they just lived by Sharia law and it was all under the caliphate. This is beautiful. Other than the fact that the caliphate lasted for 400 years and it was crumbling for about 300. That's beside the point. But it's all a matter of they destabilized Iraq, which Saddam was the dick, but he was the Iron Man keeping it in control. And once that destabilization hit, that's why you have all this other chaos. And I don't know what the solution is. Mm-hmm. You don't want a power vacuum because that's what created the Taliban and kind of Al Qaeda in Afghanistan. I mean, the problem with
the solution is difficult. I mean, we were still talking about what the problem is, whether it's religion.
Yeah. But the thing is I think it's a complicated thing. Let's just say if I sat across the table from you and just came up to you and just said, atheism is fucking bullshit, you'd probably just get irate.
I doubt it.
Well, no, I'd probably expect you to explain yourself.
Yeah, well, that, and which it's obviously I can't. The only explanation
because atheism isn't a belief system, so that assertion would fail before it starts.
But you know what I mean? When you start attacking a person's belief system,
they take offense.
They take offense, and this is just it.
But here's the thing: many members of Islam don't just take offense when you offend their religion. They expect you to convert. And when you don't, they want to impose that law on you. The poll numbers are really not in favor of moderates. They're in favor of those in favor of Sharia law in westernized civilization.
You know what? I think they brought up the polls on that one video, and I'd have to see the polls. It's just a case of I don't like the broad brush. It makes me kind of go.
No, I never like it. It would be odd to say that Islam isn't a destructive force in the world. It is. It would be very odd to say that it isn't. It would be odd to say that Islam is a positive force for the world.
And I know they try to make that argument.
If you're not racist or sexist or a murderer, then it's fine.
Well, the thing is they make the argument that
if you are, sorry.
If you are, that's fine.
In Malaysia, it's one of the biggest Muslim populations, and it's relatively peaceful. I mean, there is some bullshit bubbling up where I guess there was a court saying that they want them to say non-Muslims can't use the word Allah or something.
They also have a separate for example, Indonesia. They have a separate law system for Sharia law.
Yeah, which I think Sharia is a load, but
Sharia is a load.
We're referring back to the Bill Maher conversation, though, because what was being said in that conversation was different. What was being said there was all these because Islam, then this, and that's strictly Islam, and nothing to do with anything else. To me, that's the way that conversation.
Well,
it's it was bad ideas are bad ideas. I don't give a shit where they come from. You know what I mean? And that's the problem. It's people then say, well, it's all Islam's fault. But bad ideas are going to exist whether it's there or not.
Well, it might be a flaw of logic, but I could bring in, communism, which is atheistic ideology, the Great Leap Forward in.
It's secular would be a
it was secular.
Yeah.
And killed a lot of people in China when they did that.
Except that they're not really communist. They just go by the name.
The Great Leap Forward.
Really.
No, there is the communism of theory and reality is different. But under Mao Zedong, Zedong, or however you pronounce it.
No,
properly,
I know what you mean. Yeah.
I want to say the Great Leap Forward, where all of a sudden he forced all the intellectuals into the fields and all this stuff, and there was just mass starvation. Yeah.
From each according to ability.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
the
first tenet of communism he destroyed.
Yeah.
It's the China has never been communist. It's just called communist.
Yeah, and then under Stalin he kind of
it's under the Communist Party.
Yeah. And Stalin did something similar where he tried within a span of something like
Stalin was basically Hitler.
Yeah, he was.
But the notion that he was socialist for and of the people
aren't you
is
kind of
garbage.
splitting the same hairs, though? Like, you're saying, okay, that wasn't true communism, just like these guys are. Some make this argument that isn't true Islam.
Stalin just had a better K-to-D ratio.
We need to get rid of the words. We really do. We need to just take a look at their actions. It doesn't matter whether we define them as communist or socialist.
Well, that's just...
All that matters is whether we define them as practical and moral.
I mean,
really.
and that thing is...
And their actions were clearly shit.
I understand what Dave is saying, too, that with or without Islam and those... and all of that shit. With or without it, you're going to have people raping 10-year-olds. You're going to have people murdering other people for their beliefs.
Sure.
We can just say that, hey, raping 10-year-olds is wrong.
Yeah.
And because it's acceptable in Islam, Islam is wrong because of that, period.
Right.
And then there's other things, but both sides on that are correct.
Which I think was actually Sam Harris's point, was that this religion of Islam holds two tenets that are bad ideas, and we should, as a whole, reject those ideas.
That brings me back to what I was going to say to you, which is this isn't the motivation for everything, Islam. It's just one way in which everything is accepted.
And that's what I'm saying, though. But the argument from Bill Maher and Sam Harris was that it is the motivation. That was very clear in that discussion to me, that strictly that's the motivation.
For some people, it likely is.
Well, and
I would say
I think this is the problem. We keep saying the same thing, but you say some people in this. They're painting with a very large brush. They didn't say some. They said all.
I think we can agree that it isn't the motivation.
Yes.
It's the rationalization. If someone wants to fuck a 10-year-old, religion isn't their motivation.
No.
It's the fact that they're a sick individual to begin with.
I think very rarely
religion is just how they justify that garbage.
Although I don't think
right?
that part was actually in the Quran. That's in the Hadiths. But anyway.
Whatever,
and again, though, like how
they
can
still treat that as religious doctrine, right?
It's the point is it's not the motivation.
The problem
I
is
think that's important.
Well, the problem is with the broad brush approach then too, right? Like then you're saying that like all people in this, not you, but I mean if somebody has a broad brush approach, is that all people in this one group are all this way because this book exists. And it's like maybe some people within that faith actually don't like those parts and would rather they be removed, but they have no control over that.
No,
well, right,
you know what I mean?
That's not a broad brush approach.
That is a broad brush approach.
This faith, that's not broad brush. That's specific. Yeah. That's ridiculously specific to a set of words in a book.
No, I'm saying
but that's the tenets of the faith, right?
Right.
It's not a broad brush approach when you say that this if your wife's not a virgin, you have to kill her with rocks. That's not broad brush. That's specific to that ideology in that religion.
But I'm saying is that not every single person believes that.
It doesn't matter.
It's
in the book.
That's true, but it is in the book.
This is a cherry-picking appeal.
Or not.
Yeah.
This is a cherry-picking appeal. Say, well, look, some people cherry-pick out of this book. Yeah. Then they shouldn't support the book.
Well, but yeah, see, again, though, what I'm trying to say, though, is that, I mean, obviously we are at that point where we think that way, okay?
Right.
That's fine. But what I'm saying to say that the whole Islam world is somehow completely messed up because of these ideas in this one book, I think it's broad brush. It's not taking into account all the other socio-political factors.
I think it's almost a misnomer to say the Islam world.
Right.
If you say
this
the
part
Middle
of Islam,
East,
but that's how they were talking about it, though. This is my point.
That's because the way it should be looked at is this part of Islam where it says to kill this person is wrong and bad and should be removed. The rest is fine. We could care less. Take the parts out where it tells you to kill everybody that's not Islam, that's not Muslim.
To be fair, it was a short program. They couldn't go into all the complexity.
It
seems you're pointing out that there's more complexity than they admitted.
But if you take into account Bill Maher's arguments, so, I mean, I think in that particular topic, Bill Maher has pretty much shown himself to be, a little bit. He has to be, right? He's a media guy, but he's got to be extreme on that subject.
I agree to the extent that anyone who supports that book, who supports that religion, is doing something harmful.
It's the exact same with Christianity.
I know that to a point there is that. I get that. But I think we all, at some level, we have the privilege in this society of not supporting as many things as in some other societies they might have to. But
That's
yet we still
wrong word. Don't use privilege.
No,
it's
no,
not
no,
a
no,
privilege.
no, no, no,
It's
no.
not an
No.
inalienable
That's not
right.
the argument
Let
we're
me
having.
finish.
No,
Let
it
the
doesn't
social,
matter. It's
let the
still-
social
it's still-
scientist finish.
It still counts in that sentence.
Let the social scientist finish.
We don't have the privilege.
No, because it is a privilege. I mean, let's think about this. Did you choose to or somehow magically get into this society to have the rights that you have?
Should I not have them?
Not saying you shouldn't.
Then it's not a privilege.
Well,
Period.
It's something
It is-
It's
everyone
the
should.
wrong word. It's
no,
the
it's
wrong
not
word.
because we are created in this westernized culture. Because that's the only way I can put it. Because until you cross that magical line of culture,
This is going to branch off into privilege.
Right.
but it's still
Let's continue on the main point first.
Yes, and I'm kind of losing it a bit because now.
Yeah.
But semantics aside, I mean, the whole point is that I think that you live here, you live over there. There's different sets of things that you have to consider. I kind of lost my point now.
We have rights and abilities here that they don't, and obviously we're going to see things differently.
Well,
Because
but yet we're still complicit with evil all the time. And whether even it's not a religious evil, though. Like, think about it. Like, how many sweatshops do we support? How many
with our purchases?
our purchases? How
but
many?
You mean by
that's-
buying an
that's
iPhone?
That's the
What's
law
that?
of unintended
By buying an
consequences.
iPhone.
It's a lot of things. A lot of things.
Sure.
How many? How
Shirts.
much exploitation are we responsible for in this country that directly affects other people, and we're just complicit with that evil. So we're also doing harm as well in some other ways. So what I'm trying to say is, why paint a broad brush on an entire thing like that when you realize that people have more complexity to them individually? I don't think it's helpful to do that.
because we're picking our fights.
Well, the thing is, when I buy a shirt, I might not even be aware that I'm exploiting people.
Oh, let's be honest here.
In Africa, right? Well, hell if I know where my shirt comes from, right?
But we don't even
I
look
don't
into
even
it.
think about that. But people who support Islam think about supporting Islam. That's
And do it
completely
actively.
But what I'm
different.
saying, what if they disagree with that element of it and want to change it but aren't able to?
Then they probably shouldn't be Islamic. They
Then we
should
probably
be a
shouldn't buy
Muslim.
that fucking
you
shirt.
don't have that. You
They
do not
shouldn't be a
have
Muslim.
that
Then we
fucking
probably
choice.
shouldn't buy that shirt.
But they know that.
Yeah,
that they
that's the
disagree with
difference.
that.
Like,
I mean, I don't even know where this shirt came from.
But do we care enough to know?
But can I even find out?
Yes. You can, actually.
I'm not even sure.
the difference is
No, you can. You actually can look up any
you
company. You can
but
find out.
one counts. One is the law of unintended consequences. No matter what we do in our society, somebody is suffering somewhere else, possibly because of it, and
But
we
we-
can't control or do anything
But
about
we
that.
can. See, that's bullshit because we
No,
can.
we actually can't control every single thing
Not
that
everything.
happens due to what we do.
Not everything, but we can do more. But we can definitely do more.
We can do more.
That's what I'm saying.
I agree with
I
you.
think
what I'm
there's
saying.
a distinction here, though.
But there's a very specific thing about a religion where
Yeah.
if somebody is keeping, if you're supporting a religion that in its basic doctrine holds other people down or kills people
Okay.
or like that's a very obvious decision that you're making.
Okay,
Explicit.
but here's the thing. This is the thing I think we're missing though is that we're kind of saying that because you support this element of it, you also support all of it. Okay, in some regard. Well, I don't see how that's a different argument than what I'm making because we support an element just because it's not labeled as a religion. There's still an ideology and a philosophy behind what these companies do, right? And the harm they do, and we allow them to exist in very small ways. Are we not any better then? Is what I'm trying to get at.
No, in some ways, you're right because
Yes.
I see what
Yeah.
you're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, if you support McDonald's in Canada, you might be supporting keeping animals in battery cages,
And you're
For
inadvertently
example.
supporting
So
and
below cost
you
living
can
cost
know
wages.
that.
yeah,
And that's
Yeah.
important. But it sounds to me that what you're arguing is that people who support Islam shouldn't be supporting Islam, just as we shouldn't be supporting.
Well, and
They
I
should
am
know
saying,
what
I
they're
am
supporting
saying, I'm
and
saying I agree
remove
with you
themselves
to a
from it.
point. I agree with you to a point in the sense that there is an element of cooperation that creates harm, right? Like, but at the same time, I think to put those people and say that they're, I don't think it helps to point out the wrongdoing.
I think the other thing that's brought
unquote.
up in that video
I think there's middle ground here. Anyway.
There is. No, this is a good discussion. This is why
is that okay? Right? We hear all about the stoning to death or whatever. I mean, which a lot of it actually comes out of Saudi Arabia, which apparently, because I did some research into it, is actually they're Wahhabis, which is apparently one of the most extreme versions of Islam out there. But the thing is there have been more, to use the apparently loaded word of moderate Islamic countries. Iran was at one point a very westernized,
bikini wearing, hula hoop swirling.
Well, there's a lot of rich
beer
people there.
swirling.
yeah. And all this other kind of stuff, but there was this for
Are
whatever
you saying
reason.
economics has a role to play?
Yeah, sure it does.
Wow.
Yeah,
Who'd have thought?
well, it's like
This
that's-
was Dave's earlier point.
See, is to me, it bothers me when broad brushes come out because it's all a very complex issue. And
Of course it is.
And to me to say, well, just because you follow Islam,
You are supporting Islam by following it, by espousing it.
I think that's too easy. It's too easy of an answer.
Just
But
because it's too easy doesn't make it not true.
If you support Christianity, then you
You're
support
supporting
Christianity.
Yes.
See, the problem is, it doesn't
But
mean
the
you're
problem-
supporting
You're
what the
helping to
fundamentalists
continue
are
and
doing.
popularize it.
But the problem is Christianity's already gone through its super bloody period. They've come to the realization
We
I
don't
don't know
want
about that.
Islam to have to go through. a
We've just
bloody
refined our
period.
bloodiness. We
No,
just,
but no,
we just
but
drop
it
bombs from a
has.
distance.
It has, like,
But aren't you still supporting uncritically accepting things?
But the thing is
At the very least.
people are critical and discuss Christianity all the fucking time. I mean, there are certain people that are just like, the whole idea of creationists and literalists of the Bible. That's only been a relatively new thing since say the.
But so what? I mean, even the most moderate person.
99% of our knowledge, period, has come in less than the last 100 years.
But the point.
We should be beyond it.
So the point is
Sorry,
that
Mike.
you're saying that if someone follows Islam, then they buy into the whole fucking kit and caboodle.
No.
But
It
they're
seems they're
causing at
supporting
least
Islam.
some harm.
Right. But I'm saying is
Another
guess-
word for
I guess-
moderate
I guess the
is
way-
complacent.
So
I guess the thing is
you're a little different.
we can sit here and argue it, but I think tones would change if there was a fucking gun to your head. Like, I mean,
Well-
and that's where I think the
Sure.
problem is that
Well, and
okay, because these are all like, I mean, let's centralize it. Is that yes, we're doing the big argument of Islam. Once again, I'm fucking defending Islam, and I don't.
we're being critical. This is good.
And
We're supposed to be critical.
This is actually one of the best discussions we've ever had.
and like, and
I
that's,
don't know.
Well,
There's so many
there's a lot
things
of
I
back
want to
and
say
forth
here,
and a
but
bunch
Yeah,
of
I
stuff.
mean,
trying
and,
to be
like, and
nice.
that's and that's just
Don't
it.
be
You'll
nice.
probably
You're not
rip me a
nice.
new asshole, and I'll probably whatever.
It's not reverse
But
day.
the thing is that these. It's kind of like the fall of Afghanistan, right? Americans went in, funded the Mujahideen, fight the Soviets. Soviets pulled out. Americans pulled out. Power vacuum. Suddenly, a bunch of guys from illiterates with a lot of fucking weaponry seized power. And this is where the problem is that it's usually the more illiterates that take these books as
See,
unquestionable.
you're skimming the surface of the problem, but you're actually looking at a little bit deeper right there. You're talking about the illiterates. The actual root of the problem is people uncritically accepting things.
Oh, sure.
They don't need to be
Sure.
educated.
Yeah.
So everybody who is supporting Islam is at the very least supporting
And
the notion
there are
that we
voices
should
in the
uncritically
Islamic,
accept
There
things.
are voices out there criticizing, and there's actually a lot of voices against ISIS. But
Everyone who supports a religion supports the idea that we should uncritically accept things. So right there, that's a harm. So that's harm number one. Now, I'm not going to disagree that some people support far more harm than that.
Yeah.
But everybody who supports religion supports at least that much harm, which is we should uncritically accept things. That is harmful. The opposite of critical thinking.
The people that are cherry picking, the harm they're doing is not the fact that they're cherry picking. It's the fact that they're ignoring the stuff that they're not cherry picking.
Are they ignoring it though, or are they wanting it to be changed though? This is the thing.
They
Like,
probably
They
want it to
they
be
might
changed.
want it changed.
I mean,
And
in a
maybe
weird
they're
way,
trying.
like, I
How do
mean,
we
I'm
help them?
fighting
This
against
is my
the guys,
question.
but in
well, that's
in
a
weird,
good question. But maybe we should be rather than helping them change the book. Maybe we should be helping them stop
Discard
accepting
the
it.
book.
But you can't jump
Discard.
from point A to point B. It doesn't work like that. You got to have a progress, a process. You know
And
what
I mean, I think
Depends.
inherently, and I'll obviously, like I said, it's a weird thing is kind of defending Islam, but here I'll go swing the other side.
You don't have to keep saying that.
I'll swing the other
forgive you.
other way. Is inherently there are people questioning Islam, but inherently it's something that you can't, because it's a text that an illiterate man sitting in a fucking cave was told by some voice in the wilderness, and this is the supposedly unaltered, word of God. And that's, it's kind of it took how many, it took till 1960s for the fucking Catholic faith to just not do everything in fucking Latin. It's a hard thing it's something that's that ingrained, because it's not just a faith structure, it's a political structure. It's a hard thing to just, I don't think it's fair to use the broad brush, but it's not something you should accept either. But I thought the argument between them was just two guys screaming past each other and being
yes and no.
Yeah, we're having a better argument than they are. That's what
sure.
I think so.
I think Ben Affleck was the one not really hearing much.
Yeah.
That's my take.
I mean, I don't
I
think
think him and Bill Maher were both.
I
being
think
stupid.
I'm surprised he
Bill
didn't
Maher
jump on a
doesn't
couch.
listen to
Bill
people.
Maher is just.
I think the problem is
It's not
I
my
don't
favorite.
think they're willing to have that discussion is the problem. That's just it. Is I watched it and just kind of went, you're both being fucking idiots. I didn't like the broad brush, but
Sam Harris was trying to be the calm, collected intellectual and just explain things.
Yeah.
That's what he does.
No,
It's why I appreciate him as an intellectual, even though I disagree with him, on a fair amount of topic.
the argument against the broad brush. Would anybody disagree that murdering somebody because they're not of your faith is wrong?
Yeah.
I mean,
Just a question.
Continue.
I just want a yes or no.
It's rhetorical. Everybody
It's
agrees.
rhetorical.
Then how
Let's
come you
agree.
can't have a broad brush against that?
okay. Once again, my brain goes into anthropology, where there's certain things that are common no matter what the culture. There's certain.
I know, but why can't we paint that with a broad brush?
My broad brush here is uncritical acceptance. We're supposed to uncritically accept what others say, what a text says, what supposed God says. That's the text, right?
I mean, it is inherent.
That's the harm.
So I don't know.
That's
It's
the
one of those
harm.
things where I don't think. I guess the problem is the phrasing. To have an actual discussion about what is going wrong in the Middle East or whatever, that's something to be fair. But to just say Islam's bad.
Well,
but
Islam's bad because religion is bad.
Okay, that in a weird way, that's a more broader brush that I would more accept.
I know. Isn't that strange?
Yeah, it's
but
strange.
uncritical acceptance is wrong.
Yeah.
It is bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, Islam's not bad because it's Islam. Islam's bad because it's a religion.
Yeah.
Because it's a bad bunch of ideas.
But here's the one I'll ask: is that because obviously
And because it's Islam.
because Islam came
I had
out
to throw that out there.
because Islam came out of a very
The good book is good because it's a book and it's good.
mind you, it's just like the criticism of Judaism. Judaism at its core is a very tribal religion.
Yep.
It's structured very tribally.
It's just one step removed from Islam too.
well, I would.
They're cousins.
You know what?
They're deep
Actually,
South cousins.
I was bored.
They're
I
deep
was
South Alabama fucking cousins.
Okay, this is a comparison I came up with while I was at work because I have 4 hours of rolling pretzels. My brain wanders. In a weird way, what you have in the three religions of the book is you have your old school comic book, slight revision, fuck it, reboot. Because that's basically what those three are. And the thing is, the problem is that I didn't like the broad brush, but inherently in Islam, it's supposed to be unquestioning. In fact, I was watching a debate where between a Catholic guy and a Muslim, and they're just basically going, well, aren't you going to accept the truth? Aren't you going to accept the truth? Aren't you going to accept the truth? And it's like, and this is just it, is that the problem is it's so intertwined as this is the truth. How do you separate it from the culture? And this is just it, is it's so intertwined that, yes, we can sit here and have this nice discussion because we're all able to have this, that, critical thinking of this. But in a lot of these countries, there is no outside influence.
Religion is just a subset of culture. It's
No, I'd say religion is kind of culture and religion go like this.
They're side by side.
They're
and
side
parallel,
by side
according to your hands.
Yes, and they actually
They're very small and smell like cabbage.
yes,
or pretzels.
Yeah, or pretzels in this case. Is
I would
one,
say that it's a subset of culture.
They shape each other through history.
Sure.
And that's where
people
so
are
there's
shaped by religion.
subsets of each other.
No, because religion evolves to a certain extent. Whereas the weird thing is culture changes, but so does religion. But they try to say religion is unchanging, which is total bullshit. But that's just
religion has changed a lot.
Yeah.
Well, no. But
I agree with you.
But when they're retelling it, it's eternal. It'll never.
It's supposed to be.
It's supposed to.
It just isn't.
It changes anyway, though.
God is incapable of making mistakes this time.
Yeah. But the thing is by constantly having this argument saying Islam is just fucking bad, this is what helped create this. The West is the devil, and this is where the problem is. I mean, we're helping it out by throwing.
I get that they don't have access to any other information.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody disagrees with that. A lot of people don't. They live in mud huts in fucking villages with no power. Some places.
There's a lot of it, yeah.
A lot of that.
So do we attack, this is the thing, and this is what maybe needs to be attacked. We need to attack the lack of critical thinking, because you can't blame the idea for the action of the human.
No,
you blame the human for taking on that idea. And I think we need to attack the lack of critical thinking. This is what I'm saying.
Well, I think we need to look at both.
I fucking agree.
Yeah.
Because the idea is a bad idea.
Sure.
Yes.
Well, so we mentioned it's a bad idea, but I think that there's a difference between, again, because if we're referencing the conversation that they had,
right,
and the whole saying, because literally it's the Islam is to blame, Islam is to blame,
and uncritical thinking is
Islam
to blame.
Uncritical thinking is
Islam
to blame
is the
for those types
motherlode
of
of all bad ideas.
But,
it's a symptom.
those kinds of lines. Yeah. Religion is a symptom of that, right? So I mean, this is the thing. It's like so uncritical thinking. And also, at the same time, another symptom I'm going to say is socioeconomic status of a country, of a society, because you have the less ability to be critical when you don't have the freedom to be critical. You don't have the access to be.
Well, that's the same here.
North Korea is the perfect example of what you're talking about there. They don't have any freedom for critical thinking.
No, they don't
at all.
So, and there's nothing religious about that directly. Even
in a weird way, it is.
In a weird way, it's its own thing. But
yeah. It's religious in the sense that the dictator is God.
Because there's an uncritical thinking that
yes.
You have grandpa, whatever.
And actually, in many Middle Eastern countries,
he is eternal president for ever. He's the eternal president.
In many Middle Eastern countries, there actually has a better access to information than in North Korea. Many bloggers.
What country doesn't?
Well, yeah, that's right. Raif Badawi in Saudi is imprisoned and getting lashed for criticizing on a blog.
Right.
This is the kind of thing that
and that once again, that's the problem is that it's still tribal. It's still run by basically the Saud family, and they're Wahhabists.
They have access to the internet.
One thing I'm actually going to do some
but
research on, if I remember to, if you remind me. A lot of the Saudi cities are huge. They're not all mud huts. Right?
No,
they have
the Saudi Arabia is a fairly rich country.
Yeah,
right.
Just like Iran.
But the thing is
okay, Middle East. There's lots of huge Middle East countries where obviously this is a huge issue, where Islam is large and in charge. So I'm going to see if I can research what their internet access is, because I should be able to find somewhere, because everything's on the internet. Well, how many people have access to the internet? How much of it's unblocked?
One of the worst examples of government control is Saudi Arabia, right? But even there, people have access to Facebook, and they have access to atheist sites and stuff, and they have access to all kinds of information. The problem is that if you like the wrong thing or post the wrong thing or share the wrong thing, then you get labeled as an apostate and murdered or arrested. That's That's why Saudi Arabia in particular
Well,
is...
the question I have
like
is...
you have the freedom of information in a sense, you just don't have the freedom to express yourself.
Now,
So what percentage of the population would you say is extreme to the point of arresting people, of killing people for being an apostate? What percentage do you? I guess
It's hard to say. I don't remember the numbers. I'm sure if you check out Why Evolution is True, the Jerry Coyne blog, he just had a couple posts about this with some statistics on it.
Like, you would think that just because of the way things work out, that the majority would be moderates, right? Followers of Islam.
Again, I think it depends on the country you're looking at.
Because and I don't know this at all, but I'm trying to think is how extreme Muslim is, say, Turkey, because it's a very secularized state since the collapse of the Ottoman Empire. Like, in fact, the Islamic State, on a video I watched on Vice, was they were threatening to invade Turkey. In fact, they're on the border right now because they see them as an apostate state.
Yeah.
I think if they actually cross that border, they're going to get stomped. But, and then how extreme is, prior to the election of the Muslim Brotherhood, how extreme was Egypt? I think there are examples of. I mean, Egypt is its own really weird
some issues
scenario there, because like the military ruled Egypt pretty good, but like these are examples of a little bit more moderate with their own unique twists, and that's why I was saying the broad brush bothers me.
I don't know that it's helpful. I guess this is my biggest.
Yeah, well, that's just it.
I think it's just alienating, and this is my issue. It's like,
if we talk
about critical thinking, that's a different topic altogether. But if we talk about instantly that you belong to this group in this religion, and that's the problem, it's like, well, maybe that's part of the problem in some regards, but I don't think that's effective in necessarily creating a dialogue.
It just creates an already
not truth. It's practicality.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
You're trying to argue, like, I mean, I don't know. Truth becomes a loaded word too in this kind of argument, because, granted, they seem to think they hold the monopoly on the truth.
Sure, they do.
Every religion does.
Every religion
does in some way.
And the fact that they're wrong about that isn't what should concern us as much as what we should do to actually stop all of the atrocities.
We need freedom of thought. Globally, like you need freedom of thought no matter what society you're in. Like, you have to be able to think differently and not have consequences for having that thought.
Well, that's even I know we're kind of discussing what Sam Harris said, but after that discussion with Ben Affleck, or whatever you call that, he even posted something about, like, we need to support these reformers and these people who are trying to change things. Even while still saying that this religion is a bad idea.
Yeah,
that seems to sound where you're coming down.
Yeah,
that seems to sound like what you're saying.
To a point. I don't want to be. I don't know. I think it's tough, because I think there's a certain arrogance in saying that
telling them they're wrong is alienating, and it's going to drive them against you.
What's the Daniel Dennett quote? There's no polite way to tell somebody that they've
devoted their entire lives
to a fallacy, or
right.
Yeah,
sure, but I think there's an arrogance in labeling a whole group as being one way.
I guess that's a better way to articulate my problem.
That's my job here.
Yeah,
and I think that was. And that's just it. I like Bill Maher, but he can come across as quite arrogant and smart.
It's like he's an asshat sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. But I still love his show and still agree with points.
Fine. It's an interesting show, yeah.
And
I just want to take a minute to tell you about a limited time offer. For the next 11 days, as of this release, you can promote the Brainstorm podcast, show the world you're woo-free, and support the Canadian Mental Health Association all at the same time. We have a Teespring campaign going on right now as a preparation for having the executive director of the Regina branch of the CMHA in studio on November 22nd. I want to be able to present him with a check for $350. We have 30 shirts to sell in order to reach that goal. Just $23 a shirt plus shipping. Go to teespring.com/brainstorm and mental health. I really appreciate any support.
Do you want to help make the Brainstorm podcast self-sustaining? For just $1 an episode, you can. Go to patreon.com/Brainstorm podcast and become a patron, or go to gumroad.com/Brainstorm and pay whatever you want for individual episodes. Different support levels can get you either a shirt or hand-embroidered hat with the Brainstorm logo on it. If you can't give any money, then that's fine. Give us a rating and write a review on iTunes or Stitcher. For a limited time, we're offering a Brainstorm t-shirt. First person to review us on either podcatcher. If you just like listening and want to keep up with the show, then like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and check out our website, brainstormblog.net.
Out of this group, and this is going to sound weird because Corey's sitting right beside me, but I think I'm the biggest anti-theist here. I think I hate religion more than anybody else.
I probably not.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Sorry,
okay.
man. You and I are going to have this out later then.
Yeah.
Because I claim that title as well.
Yeah, I don't think religion in any form is okay ever.
Mm-hmm.
Even because you can have a religion. And
That's just the definition of anti-theism.
I know.
So I guess like,
there's three of us who are anti-theists.
I don't always agree with Sam
At
Harris,
least.
and I found myself feeling odd about agreeing with every single post that he posted about this, but I really did.
Me too.
Every single time that he posted something, I was like, "That's right."
Yeah, taken in context.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think the part of the problem is like we have, like, you look down in the States, you have some of the Republican Tea Party, you have some of these right wing nut bars, and they do hold some positions of power, but I don't think they're going to ever get a major control of anything. Whereas the problem in the Middle East is the ones that have the major control are the more minority, more minority extremists. And
but again, I think that's maybe the analysis of our society, though, is that just because it appears differently doesn't mean it isn't the same thing. Like I think there actually is a group of people who are crazy and have terrible ideas in our own society.
Oh, absolutely,
that are fucking everybody over. So
I saw a documentary.
Just because they're not religious doesn't mean like.
I mean, I think I saw a documentary one time saying that they're talking about how the states are creeping towards its own theocracy, I should say.
Oh, yeah.
And it's once again, I don't
have any stats to back me up here, but I think actually they're pulling away from the theocracy. I think so, because you have the Tea Party and they've been shown as absolute asshats. Yeah, like they say the most ridiculous things that the even most, I don't know, the average person just looks at them and go, "What? Like, you can't say that. That's ridiculous."
Although the one point that Yank Younger brought up that I'd be kind of curious to see if there's any polls or stats on it is how many in the Middle East have actually read the Quran. I'd be kind of curious because it's just like there's a lot of Christians I don't think have ever read.
Just
their
like
own.
the Southern states.
No, that's right.
Haven't read their own Bible.
Jesus was American. If that's good enough for Jesus.
Well, Jesus was American if you're Mormon.
Yes, exactly.
He came here.
So like, I mean, that's just it. It's just a case of, I think it was three screaming heads talking past each other that, Ben Affleck is kind of an idiot.
I hope we don't come across like that.
Yeah, I hope not either.
Sure we do.
I don't think
we can come across.
Corey,
like
do your fucking job.
A little bit of editing magic.
Yeah.
Gummy doesn't talk at all in this episode.
A little bit of editing magic, and we all sound like Lord.
If we were going to conclude this conversation, the broad brush for me is just uncritical acceptance. Religion in general being a bad idea. The broad brush of Islam is crap as a message isn't practical, isn't going to have good consequences. So in order to have good consequences, we need to support moderates who want to reform Islam. Yes. That's one of your points? I guess
that's more my part, is that there are moderates out there.
I think we can all
they
sort of
do
agree
want to
on
reform
that.
it. Now, how? I know.
Well, yeah.
If they want to reform it, I don't think we should label them as moderates. I think they're extremists.
Well,
on the other side.
They're considered reformers.
I was hoping to wrap this up.
That's fine. This is good.
Yeah.
Because moderates in general,
the whole episode.
in religion, as I've seen in Christianity, they're just complacent. They're like, no, this is the part I read. Yeah.
But
that's the Old Testament. It doesn't count. You know, those are Christian moderates.
There's a different sect
the cherry pickers.
Different sect of Christianity based on where the comma is in the Lord's Prayer. I mean, let's be realistic.
But you know what? But there is an element of Christianity that doesn't believe in any literal interpretation in the Bible,
sure.
and just believes in some of the the morality that's taught within it.
Yeah.
Are they?
And you know, and I think the problem. And the thing
but there is an element.
And
I
think there's also a different.
No,
it's hard to compare.
The shudders from the morality side of it.
You know, I think it's a hard thing to compare to, though, is because Islam isn't. There isn't a central Church of Islam, shall we say? There isn't one central.
Well, there isn't of Christianity anymore either.
Well, we could say it's Catholicism.
Well,
Catholicism has always been central.
That's the root.
For the sake of, also.
See, and I've had that argument so many times. Christianity isn't the beginning. Catholicism.
Well, of course it isn't.
No, but there's people that think that. Christians. Like, no, God came first.
Jesus was a Jew.
Yeah. That's just it. Christianity, Judaism, Islam.
Yeah.
Right?
Bible was assembled by committee.
Uh-huh.
What's the no illusions from the Scathing Atheist? Every religion can be used for ill.
By anyone.
Any ideology can be spun to your own end.
Any ideology. Yeah, it doesn't have to be religion.
That's right.
When you're willing to uncritically accept whatever perceived religious authority tells you, then you're willing to take into your brain all of the garbage as well as the good stuff. And that's very dangerous.
You don't even have to say religion. Just in general.
Just the ideology.
In general.
Thinking.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The cure for this is philosophy.
I think there's another element though too that sort of ties in, and you know, survivalism is such a big genre in our society now. It's like, do we have the luxury to be ethical? And it's like, we do, because we have resources, we have freedom, we have all these other things. But then when you're in a survivalist state, it's like all that stuff just goes out the window. Even if you can be critical about things, to a point you have to survive. You know, it's just like,
and that's one of the central parts of Islam. And I think that's
even in the West.
Huh?
This is why people check Christian.
Exactly.
Off on
like in the States, where
surveys.
you can't hold a position of office unless you're religious.
Sure. Or in the Middle East, where you can't survive without pretending at least to be a Muslim.
You got to be part of the right swing of Islam.
Sure.
Yeah, wasn't there a time not that long ago where there were people going door to door and saying like, well, do you believe in this version of Allah? And if you said no, then they killed you.
So,
I don't know.
So when you say that 20% of people believe in Islam, and when you say everybody isn't really accountable for all of this, is that sort of what we're getting at?
Is everyone not accountable? No.
A lot of the people don't actually believe in any of this.
There's a survivalism.
Yeah. It's just survivalism.
And it's also, I think there's also an element of, well, we go to prayer 5 times because, well, this is how we were raised, you know, and
because this is what people do.
Well, it's like so. I look at it this way. It's like, so, you know, because I think Ben Affleck said something, and one of the only good things he said in that whole conversation was like, some of these people are honest, hardworking people who just want to make a living. They don't give it. You know?
Absolutely.
So I think when you think about it that way, you kind of go like, from a survivalism standpoint, if they were in a position where they had to kill in the name of Islam to survive, I mean, then you get put in a different boat, right? So it's like, I don't know, like it gets tough to just say, oh, well, you poo-poo on you for supporting Islam, but in some ways it's like, well, maybe they don't really have the option, you know.
Well, that's where I think with the ISIS thing is that they've become a steamroller because that whole area is just a fucking mess. 3 years of civil war, suddenly those guys are winning, and they got some pretty good weaponry. I'm going to join them. I'm going to go join them. Like, I mean, they're
I
bad.
for one accept their Chinese overlords.
But that's I think the problem is because it's such a hot button topic right now that,
And yeah, the West went over there and they fucked things up.
They have been for the last 100 years.
Yeah. Well, not just that. Yeah, if you go back far enough, like you were saying, Europe started it.
And then you could also spin in the Americans with the whole, they were backing the Shah of Iran, which caused the revolution and So, I mean, okay, let's sum it up with this. Religion is bad and and so is fucking politics.
Yeah, we can sum it up with religion is bad, but let's try to support people who try to make it at least less bad.
Yeah, like, I mean, people.
That seems to be our conclusion.
Like,
here.
I mean, that's just it.
Yeah.
There are those out there that are questioning what's going on.
Instead of fighting Islam, instead of wondering how we can stop them, we should be thinking about how we can help the other people that are there already that don't want to be in it.
Yeah, I mean, and I think
critical thinking,
and in a way,
well, not even like even you can have left wing
right.
Muslims, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like even now, like I mean, there is that coalition going on, which is, I don't know if it's going to actually do anything, but it seems to be kind of doing something. But you do have a lot of the Islamic big pause states that are around going up against ISIS. They are getting together, going, these guys are nuts and bad, and they are working with the Americans to.
Despite the fact that we hate Islam, because it's a religion and we hate religion,
exactly.
we should support those guys in trying to fight against the worst parts of their religion.
Well, sure. It's not going to be a fight that's going to be won overnight. You have to bring it down. You have to break down Islam so people have the freedom to choose whether they're going to follow Islam.
It's not like we were suddenly not a Christian nation one moment in time.
Right, because we never were.
Well, you could argue that the majority of people were Christian, though, in this nation.
Right, but the nation's not.
Well, we have God in our freaking national anthem, so I don't know. But anyway.
It's also the modern warfare is just so fucked. Like, I mean, you look at World War II, it was so very relatively cut and dry. Who the enemies were. And
even then, though, there was
the enemies weren't the Nazis. The enemy was Hitler. And people joined the Nazis because they were winning and they didn't want to die. Same thing.
And there was an element of despicableness on this side of the fence.
Oh, yeah.
So, obviously, if you look at like a moral scale, I mean, obviously, okay, yeah, we were winning in that regard. But I mean, like there were still things happening here. The corporate world, like IBM benefiting off of concentration camps and bullshit like that went on.
And Bear.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like, so there was still despicableness on our end, too.
Absolutely. There was, as much as we want to paint it all up and nice and rosy, it wasn't.
We had our own camps, didn't we? Where
we had our own
Japanese
exactly.
Mostly the U.S.
There's a famous Japanese guy.
Camps.
We had one in. I want to say
George Takei.
I want to say Canada had one in BC.
Did we?
Yeah, we did have some internment camps.
We had internment camps for the Japanese.
This is what I'm saying is that it's like there's never a black and white evil good situation like the movies.
Well,
like
that's
the
that's exactly
it's
right.
Like, I mean, there's
and that's why I was trying to say the broad like it's a complicated fucking thing.
Yeah.
And
it is, but that in itself doesn't mean the broad brush is wrong.
But it depends on the color of the brush.
Yeah, on what you're talking
about. It really does.
That's so funny.
Killing people because they don't agree with you is wrong.
Well, that's a given. Don't you know who I am?
Yeah.
I'm the conceited prick here.
But
I think we've actually reached common ground here.
Yeah. I think
that's interesting that actually happened.
Well, there's still more thought. There's still more thought to be done in a lot of ways.
It's a huge, complicated issue.
Yeah.
So
I think we've all been on the same page the whole time. We're just looking at it from different viewpoints. Like we all know that it's going to take what it's going to take to fix everything. It's or if it can be fixed. You know what I mean by fixed, but.
I think power imbalances are just going to exist no matter what happens in this world. We just don't have.
It'll take a lot of social evolution to reach the Star Trek sort of ideal.
And even then, they still had issues in Star Trek, right?
Yeah, of course they did. They were still moving forward that way.
It's different issues.
Yeah.
A galactic invasion would help.
Or it would to a point.
Common enemy unites pretty good.
The Romulan War.
Yeah.
Then again, though, a lot of, and now we can get into the nerd segment. No, a lot of the modern survivalist stuff would actually say that it doesn't necessarily have to help. That actually, because we're so desperate at that point in time, we become more unethical, more like we don't actually band together. We actually start fighting each other for resources and fighting each other.
Right.
I'd roll the dice.
So what is it, Mike? You'd be able to quote it better. Was it Hobbes?
Thomas Hobbes.
Yeah, it was without
government, without life is short, brutish. That whole thing.
Yeah, that's the one.
I figured. In order to, it's the war of all against all. And in order to end the war of all against all, you need one power uniting the people.
Sounds like Anakin Skywalker's argument in Attack of the Clones.
Oh, really?
They just need one person to tell them what to do. You mean like a dictatorship? Well, if it works.
Yeah. Oh, you can quote that movie. That scares the hell out of me.
Oh, my God. I probably got a few words wrong.
Yeah.
It's one of the funny degree, though.
Negative 40.
It's one of the worst lines in cinematic history. Actually, that whole movie is full of them.
Oh, yeah. Anytime they were talking about, they're trying to bring in the love story.
Well, and it's like the worst, like most awkward, weird, creepy love story I think ever on film. Like it makes no sense. There's no. But anyway, he brings up all kinds of weird political bullshit like that. So,
Yeah, you need a social contract.
Yeah, that love story is more like consensual stalking.
Consensual stalking. Yeah, she kind of gets off on it.
Terrible.
Well,
terrible. Gotten away from politics a little bit.
Little bit into nerddom.
Yeah.
I think we can call her, though.
Probably.
Audible.com is offering listeners of Brainstorm a free audiobook download and a free 30-day trial membership. Membership gives you reduced prices on over 150,000 titles for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player, and costs $14.95 per month after the first free month. I just signed up a few weeks ago, and right now I'm listening to Your Deceptive Mind, a scientific guide to critical thinking skills with Dr. Stephen Novella from the Great Courses lecture series. For your 30-day free trial membership and free audiobook download, go to audibletrial.com/brainstorm. That's audibletrial.com/brainstorm. That's it for this episode. Thanks for listening. All the relevant links will be posted in the show notes at brainstormblog.net. If you want to keep up to date with the show, come on over and like us on Facebook at facebook.com/brainstormpodcast or follow us on Twitter at brainstormpod. If you want to support the show, head on over to patreon.com/brainstormpodcast and give $1 an episode. Or if that's too much, then go and give us a rating and write a review on iTunes or Stitcher. The first person to do it gets a free t-shirt or hat with the Brainstorm logo on it. For any comments, criticism, praise, or hate mail, you can email us at mail@brainstormblog.net. or use the handy contact page on our site. Sorry, no podcast shoutouts this time and no break music. I hope you enjoyed the episode and have a good one. The show was recorded in Roman Empire Studios.
This is an opinion-based podcast. Each person on the podcast is responsible for their own opinions, and those opinions don't necessarily reflect the views of the rest of the panel, any guests, or anyone associated with the people on the podcast, such as spouses, partners, children, other family members, friends, or employers. No one person speaks for the podcast with the possible exception of Corey, and he doesn't speak for anyone else on the show. The Brainstorm podcast does not represent the views of our sponsors.